All right, so this is for Lesson 7, Associated Ratios and Value of a Ratio, and this is the exit ticket example. This is not the actual exit ticket. Do not go and submit a copy of this to the exit ticket and think you're going to pass because the values, like always, have been changed to protect the innocent. No, I'm just kidding. They're changed so that you guys can practice this problem. What I want you to do, and people aren't doing this enough, is if you don't have a piece of paper in front of you, if you don't have a math journal, pause this video, get up out of your seat, go grab a pencil, a piece of paper, your math journal, whatever you need to. Go grab an iPad and write notes for all I care, but you got to be writing down, and you must be doing this problem with me, especially if you've already attempted to take the Lesson 7 exit ticket and you failed. If you're not doing this problem with me, you're not doing yourself any favors. So pause it if you need to, but please be ready to write this down along with me and read it with me. And we're going to start by reading now. Alyssa's extended family is staying at the lake house this weekend for a family reunion. She is in charge of making homemade pancakes for the entire group. The pancake mix requires 3 cups of flour for every 12 pancakes. Write a ratio to show the relationship between the number of cups of flour and the number of pancakes made. Well, I kind of skipped. As you can see, there's some information here, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions to answer. So we need to figure out what information we need from what they've provided us here, and then how we can use that information to answer the questions here. So we can see that we actually have some quantities here, some quantities, some amounts, and some descriptions. So we have in the works for us some ratios, and that works out great because they want us to write a ratio to show the relationship between the number of cups of flours and pancakes made. So we can do what we normally do, and I'm going to color code it. We can say, okay, we got 3 cups of flour. For every, there's our ratio language there, for every 12 pancakes. And we can go ahead and circle our values or our amounts. Our first one is going to be 3. And our second amount is going to be 12. And it wants us to write a ratio, a relationship between the number of cups of flour and the number of pancakes made. And we can get that information from right up here and bring it right over here. So first, I want to make sure that you know, and you need to be writing all of this down. Don't skip steps and then come to me later and ask me, I need help, I don't get it. Because I'm going to ask you to bust this problem out of your math journal. I'm going to have you show me each little thing that you've done on it. And if you haven't done each little thing, I'm going to make you go back and watch this video all over again because you're trying to get out of work and I'm not going to have it. Okay? If you want to learn, you got to put the time in. It's not instantaneous. Sometimes it takes a lot longer than we expect, but you will get it if you work with me on this problem and you do it multiple times. Okay? So we will write this down. I'm writing it down. It's not for me, it's for you. Okay? So our first description is going to be cups of flour. We can just call that flour. And then our next, and that is our next thing, which is pancakes. And then we can abbreviate that F to P, or flour to pancakes, and then we can plug in our values. 3 and 12. And then we're done. We have written a ratio to show the relationship between the number of cups of flour and the number of pancakes made. We are done. We now need to determine the value of the ratio. So what is the value of the ratio? What is a value of a ratio? And I'm going to define that term up here, okay? A value of the ratio is kind of like the unit rate. It's very, very similar. Value of a ratio is a ratio displayed in fraction form, in a fraction in simple form. So that's there for you. That is the value of the ratio. The only difference between that and a unit rate, there's not a whole lot of difference. Unit rate is sort of the same thing. It's a fraction with the denominator as 1, okay? And we talked about that, if that's because you're really just looking for that 1 unit. So the only difference is on the value of a ratio, the denominator does not have to be 1. The numerator could be 1, and we can still see it as a value of the ratio, okay? So I'm going to put a period there. As long as you're displaying that fraction in simple form, you're giving us the value of the ratio. So determine the value of the ratio. To do that, we're just going to bring the ratio that we've already done over here. Okay? So now we have the ratio over here. And what we can do with this is we can actually flip it on its side by turning it and changing the colons here into a fraction sign. So we flip it, 3 goes on top, 12 is on the bottom, and we are really close to determining the value at this point. This is not quite yet the value because what we have to do is we have to get it in simple form. It has to be in simple form or it will not be correct for the value of the ratio. Kind of like the unit rate. You have to have it in simple form. But this is not going to have a denominator, it's not going to have a denominator of 1, but we will make the numerator 1. So that's the only difference between the unit rate and value of the ratio, okay? Is that this would be flipped. Okay, so if we were going to display this as a unit rate, we would just say 12 over 3, and that is the unit rate version. And I know you're saying, but order matters, and it absolutely does matter. So I don't want to get too much more into that because we will get into it more when we're actually doing this stuff, but we'll just remember that that is closely related for right now. So in order to get the numerator, which is 3, in order to get that to be 1, we have to divide that out by 3, okay? And whatever we do to the bottom, or whatever we do to the top in this case, we have to do to the bottom, right? So we must divide 12 by 3, okay? So we have 3 divided by 3 is equal to 1, and 12 divided by 3 is equal to 4. So the value of the ratio is 1/4. And if you're entering this in on the computer, you can just use the slashes to enter in. It's also the same key that has the question mark. So if you press Shift, you can make that, well, I forget, is it Shift for this? No, Shift is to get a question mark. You just need to press the question mark button without pressing Shift, and it will give you this, and then you can just write it as, obviously don't write 1/4 because that's not the exit ticket answer, but that's how you'd write it using a keyboard. So 1/4 is the value of the ratio. Now we can move on to the rest of the questions here. The next one says, use the value of the ratio to fill in the following 2 multiplicative comparison statements. This gets a little complicated. So the number of pancakes made is blank times the amount of cups of flour needed. What does that mean? So the number of pancakes made, well, let's see how many pancakes are made first. And let's write that down. There are 12 pancakes made, and the flour needed is 3 cups of flour needed. Oh, and if we look right over here, just like what we'd look at for the unit rate, if this was flipped upside down and 1 was the denominator, if we look over here, we actually get our answer. We get that the amount of flour needed is actually 4 times the amount of pancakes, because 3 times 4 is equal to 12, okay? So we had to divide 12 by 3 to get 4, and when we divided 3 by 3, we got 1. So if we were to times 3 cups of flour by 4, we would get the amount that is in pancakes, which is 12, because 3 times 4, again, is 12. So we can go ahead and mark in there that the number of pancakes is 4 times the amount of flour needed. Okay, so you could say, you could actually say this: I need 4 times the amount of flour that I do to have pancakes. Okay, so you could say, well, how much flour am I going to need to make pancakes? Well, you're going to take 1 cup of flour, and so for every 1 cup of flour you have, it's going to make 4 pancakes, basically is what they're saying. You're only going to be able to make 4 pancakes with 1 cup of flour. 4 pancakes, 1 cup of flour. And you can see how this is very closely related to unit rates. Now, B says the amount of cups flour needed is blank of the number of pancakes made. So this is actually pretty cool and really easy to do, because we've already done what we need for this. And what I mean is, we've already figured out what the value of the ratio is, and you really just have to plug in that value for B. B is going to be the value of the ratio for this particular problem because of the way that it's set up. It's set up where the numerator is smaller than the denominator. It's not quite a unit rate. It's not a fraction with a denominator as 1, but it is a value of a ratio, and we can plug that in here. So it's 1/4 the number of pancakes, and you can kind of see that, because you can, if we looked at a tape diagram of this, and I'm going to actually bring this down so it explains it to you. If you did a tape diagram, then you can visually see how that will work out, how this can be 1/4 of the number of pancakes. And that's because we can just make a tape diagram for our, and we could even go 1, 2, 3, and then we need 1, 2, 3, and we need to get to 11. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so that should give us 12 boxes. So now we are showing our pancakes. Okay, and then our cups of flour. Let's just make sure we understand that that is flour, and these are pancakes. So right now we just got that from our information provided, 3 cups of flour for every 12 pancakes. But now we're trying to boil this down and see, okay, let's break this down into smaller parts so we can find the value. And you can see that that 3 goes into 12, right? We have a total of 12 here and a total of 3 here, and 3 absolutely goes into 12. And you can see how that goes into 12 very easily by looking at this, right? And so if I section this off, there should be 4 groups of 3 in here. And there are 4 groups of 3. You can see it, 1, 2, 3, there's 1 group. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 is another group. 1, 2, 3, there's another group. 1, 2, 3. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 3, which is equal to 12. So we can now view each one of these boxes as being equal to 1. So now we've changed this into the value, okay, not the true quantity, but the value of the ratio. And I'm going to fill these all in with blue on the top and red on the bottom. So now we can see that this is just 4. So this went from 12 to 4 and 3 to 1. And now you can see that this square of flour fits nicely into 1/4 of these boxes. So allow me to label the boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So each one of these, if you took one box away, you said, oh, I'm going to take one of these boxes away, you would be taking 1/4 of the boxes away. Okay? So you can see that this matches up to 1/4 of the box. So, long story short, the amount of cups of flour needed is 1/4 of the number of pancakes made. And you can visually see that right here. I'm going to scroll up a little bit because I notice if I don't, sometimes it gets cut off on YouTube. But let's zoom in a little bit. Boom, 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 boom. I really want you to see that those pictures correlate. You can see how that is directly a chunk of the rest of this, and that chunk is equal to 1/4, right? So let's look at the rest of our questions. We only have one left. 4, if Alyssa had to make 70 pancakes, how many cups of flour will she need to use? Well, we can actually use this tape diagram again, or we can use an equivalent ratio chart. So let's do the tape diagram first because we have it available. And we'll go ahead and I'm going to recolor it back in red. And so right now, and make sure that it's blue. And so right now, Alyssa has to make 70 pancakes. So we're going to cross out 70, or 4, excuse me, and put in 70, okay? Which means we now have to figure out, if we're crossing out 1, how much flour, how many cups of flour? Okay, if there's 70 pancakes that are going to be made, how many cups of flour will I have to use? Well, first I need to see how can I divide 70 out evenly into 4 spots, okay? And for that, guys, I'm going to use the calculator for that one, okay? We could do the math. Let's do the long division, okay? Just because I know some people need some practice with their long division. I'd like to go fast, but you know what? Let's take it slow. Sometimes we just need to take it a little bit slower in life. So you got 70, and you're trying to figure out how do I get that into 4 equal spots, right? What is that number going to be? And so to do that, we're going to have to divide 70 by 4, which is equal to, how many times does 4 go into 70? Well, 4 can't go into 7 more than once because it'll go over, so we can put 1 and we can put down 4. 7 take away 4, okay? 7 take away 4 is going to be 3. We're going to bring down the 0, okay, because 4 can't go into 3. And we're going to see how many times does 4 go into 30? 4 will go into 30. Excuse me. 7 times, and that will equal 28, okay? So we have 2, and does 4 go into 2? No, 4 does not go into 2, so we got to put in our decimal, and actually I'm going to color code this, so everything after this will be going in blue to show that this is now no longer whole numbers, but these are fractions of a number. These are decimals. So the 0 goes in to indicate there is nothing in the tenths place. We'll put that 0 down here. And now we're trying to see how many times does 4 go into 20. We know that 4 times 4 is 16. I'm using blue here. So we can't go over, we can go 4 times 4 is 16, and we don't want to go over, but let's see what is 4 times 5 equal to, and 4 times 5, thankfully, 4 times 5 is equal to 20. So we can put 5 here, and we know that 4 times 5 is equal to 20, and we minus that out, and we got 0. So we have 17.5 is going to belong in each box. So we got 17.5 and 8 each box. And we know now that if we did it to one box on the bottom, we got to do it to the top box now. And so we know that now if we need 70 pancakes, we're going to have 17 and a half cups of flour. Okay, now let's look at that at an equivalent ratio table. So we can plug in all the numbers we have now because we're using an equivalent ratio table. And first, let's label our things correctly. We have flour to pancakes. And we will zoom up and get the values that we're looking at here. The first value we're dealing with is 3 cups of flour. And that gives us 12 pancakes. And the next one we figured out, we've already done this, is 1 cup of flour. You will need, or you will get 4 pancakes. So now, due to question 4, we are given 70 pancakes. Put it there, 70 pancakes. So if we need to make 70 pancakes, how many cups of flour do we need? Well, let's plug in 70 pancakes first. And now we need to figure out how many cups of flour we'll be using to get to 70 pancakes. Well, we need to figure out, and you're going to quickly see that we're going to end up doing the same exact thing that we did over here. It's just we're not using these pictures. Instead, we're using a table. And so you can do these either way. There's no right or wrong way. Some people like the tape diagram. Some people like the equivalent ratio tables. I myself, I like drawing, but I don't like having to draw boxes. So I prefer equivalent ratio tables so that I can easily see all the numbers. And I can keep going if I need to. If they ask me another question based off of this, I can keep adding on, and I don't have to change my ratio table or erase anything. I can just put another line and put it in. So that's what I like to do. So let's take a look here. We already said, how did we get from 4 to 70? Or rather, would you get from 70 to 4? Is what we did up here. But we can say, well, how would you get from 4 to 70? And to do that, you would just say, well, how many times does 4 go into 70? And we figured out through our long division. If you are stuck on long division ever, rewatch this video because this is a great little example of how to do long division. And this isn't very long. This is not the longest of long division for sure. So 4 into 70 is going to equal 17.5. We're not going to do the long division again. We did it already. And so now you can say, okay, well, if I had to multiply 4 times 17.5 to get 70, what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So this is 1 times 17.5, and as we know, 1 times anything is the number itself. So 17.5 cups of flour to 70 pancakes. Now I'm going to let you know that you will not be dealing with fractions of a cup in the actual exit ticket. So this is a little bit harder than what the actual exit ticket is. But we can actually go ahead and plug that number in. You can also see that it matches completely. And I just plug it into our exit ticket there. And again, I just want to indicate that it matches completely with our tape diagram that we did. So if that works out better for you, please use that. I'm going to give a big macro version here. And then I'm going to zoom back up to the micro version so that you can copy down any notes that you need. If you weren't able to copy everything down because I moved too quickly, the great thing about this is it's on YouTube. It's free. You guys all have a subscription to my channel for free. That's how nice I am. No, I'm just kidding. We don't charge on YouTube, so you're good. Unless you got YouTube Red, then lucky you. No commercials. But I'm not monetized anyway, so you won't deal with any commercials. But if you did not get a chance to copy everything down, I want you to press the rewind button. I want you to replay this, and I want you to rewatch it until you're able to copy down the example and go through this entire assessment with me. So you need to answer question 1 with me, 2 with me, 3 with me, 4 with me, and heck, you need to even do the long division with me, okay? Do this all with me because this is practice, guys. Let's get it done. We can do this. That's all. I hope this helps.